Autre question? Oui, monsieur, ici.
Yes, I have a question for Robert. We've known you for a few years now as a romantic hero. In this movie won't change that. You're a romantic hero as well. It's very dramatic as well. Are you planning some kind of career move to get rid of the label of the romantic guy in the movie?
Alors c'est une question pour Robert, bien sûr. Il a un peu cette étiquette de héros romantique. Est-ce qu'il a envie, et ici évidemment c'est un film d'amour aussi, est-ce qu'il a envie de changer de registre?
I mean, I think the hardest thing about being an actor is staying employed. So, and so I don't know. I mean, I experiment with different genres and different characters and things. I mean, but I guess it's quite hard to make a movie without some aspect of romance in it. And I mean, it feels odd sometimes when there isn't. So, I mean, no matter what the movie is about, there's always a love interest. But yeah, I don't think I'll ever fight against that, as long as I don't really feel the need to.
Autre question? Oui. Oui, monsieur? Alors, dites-moi tout.
C'est à peu près la même question que Christophe, et dans le sens plutôt le rôle de l'homme entre deux univers, entre deux gentils, mais qui peut être méchant comme ça.
Oui, et Christophe comprend.
Thanks for giving me that opportunity. Because I just said to Rob, we have to get used to that kind of, because it's the same question that I'm being asked. Under somewhat different parameters, I admit, but still the question is the same. Now, there are certain classical types, and typecasting is not a dumb thing, it's a good thing. Because of course you're trying to look for an actor who's, physically and his whole persona, and possibly as many aspects as possible, as close to the character as possible, to make it more real, to abbreviate that lecture, I'm sorry. But anyway, so same thing with Robert. It would be interesting to see, excuse me for using you as an example, it's easier to talk about you. It would be interesting to countercast him, cast him as something, like the villain. Like but how would you make that interesting if you did it all the time? So you need a certain regularity because it makes sense. And then you can break that mold and make it interesting one time. If you did it again, it would turn into, some mannered, silly, arbitrary kind of thing. It's not just out of stupidity that things are as they are.
Question? No? Well, I have a question for you, Reese. I mean, your character, Marlene, really is the center of this movie, and she really undergoes very different ordeals, so to speak. What did you find maybe the toughest in your part through the movie? On a parlé des caractères de Robert et puis de Christophe, mais je trouve que le personnage de Marlène, qui est central, évidemment, connaît des aventures et des émotions très différentes. Qu'est-ce qui a été le plus difficile peut-être pour elle dans ce film?
I guess the physical aspects obviously jump out at me because this is the most physical role I've ever played. So actually, having to perform a circus performance that's so beyond anything I've ever had to do was incredibly nerve-wracking, terrifying. I shook probably for 3 days before I couldn't sleep. I was so scared. Because you also have 300 extras watching you perform, and I'm not a circus performer. I'm not used to people watching me because I do films, I'm used to a camera. But I think, also, I felt very protective of this character because I think, I imagined a lot of what it must have been like to be a woman in the 1930s and have no education, no family, no opportunity. that you had to be very strong, very tough. And it was sort of balancing that, balancing having that sort of strength of character, but also feeling vulnerable enough to be sort of accessible romantically. I think probably that was the biggest balance for the character.
Question? Oui, monsieur?
Je vais faire en français en termes de narration, qu'est-ce qu'apporte la présence des animaux dans un film de cet acabit?
Well, in terms of the narrative itself, what does the presence of all these different animals bring really to the movie and to the energy and dynamics?
It brings a lot. I mean, I think, the animals in this movie bring a sense, quite honestly, of innocence to the movie. I mean, I think they're sort of, animals are quite pure and innocent to, their abuse and use by humans. And I think there's always that element. But there's, especially for the 20s and 30s, the circus also had a sense of exoticism that they brought, and a lot of that was with the animals because at the time people didn't have satellite television or internet and didn't travel very much, and so the idea of seeing a lion and a tiger or a camel, an elephant like this was magical. So they also bring magic as well.
But wasn't the stampede scene, for instance, which is spectacular? I mean, certainly the scene where animals really take over literally. Was it very tough as a director to sort of, and for the actors as well, wasn't it a bit scary as a scene? Il y a cette scène, on parlait des animaux, bien sûr, où les animaux sont lâchés, les fauves sont lâchés, c'est quand même très impressionnant. Donc est-ce qu'en tant que réalisateur, en tant que scène, c'est difficile évidemment à mettre en place, et puis même pour les acteurs, parce qu'à un moment, ils n'ont pas eu peur, parce qu'ils étaient au milieu de ces animaux.
It was definitely a scary sequence to plan as a director because it was very complicated. We had 600 people running out of the tent and children and animals running, and you want to be safe for the people and you want to be safe for the animals. And in the beginning it was almost incomprehensible to figure out how to do it, but we managed to figure out a way of using all real animals and keeping all the people and all the animals really safe. And it was a fun challenge because every animal has their own personality, and some are quite dangerous like cats and predators, and some are quite tame like camels, and it was a fun challenge.
And for the three of you, the actors, I mean, you were in the middle of all this stampede scene. I mean, literally, did you get scared? I mean, literally. Donc je demande aux acteurs est-ce qu'ils n'ont pas carrément eu peur parce que tous ces
I think
animaux
Reese got scared. Reese got scared, but I think Reese got scared by Christoph.
I did this one shot where I had to hit Christoph in the back with the bull. And he turned around and he looked so frightening that I literally screamed like a little girl. I was like, ah! And I dropped the bull. I've been screaming, it scared me out to death. Because he can be really scary when he wants to be. But I thought, another... You don't like to be. I thought another scary part of it was the tent collapsing. That was really scary because it was a real tent. It wasn't anything computer generated. It was just, and the poles were sort of compromised, and there we were sitting. I was sitting on an elephant, and they were having fight sequences, and half the tent had collapsed, and people were running everywhere. It was a little chaotic. Yeah.
The people were far more scary than the animals.
Yeah, the people were scared.
There was one when I was lying down, I think when you hit me for about the 20th time. There was a shot when I was lying down on the floor and just having 300 people just run within a foot of my face. It's like, it was one of the scariest things I've ever done in my life. I completely forgot about that. That was horrible.
Yeah, I can imagine, 200 people running while you're laying down on the ground.
Especially when all the people want to be on camera as well. even if it's just their feet. So, and the closer they get to your face, the more likely they are to be.
We did do a shot too, though. There was one moment where I was a little nervous, and then I thought that in the middle of shooting the sequence, I felt that we were missing children in the sequence, and children are always scary in action sequences. And so I talked to the stunt coordinator about having a child fall to feel that there was a child that was in danger, and he brought his own daughter in, a 9-year-old girl, and we chopped up the floor so it was very, very soft, and she fell a couple times on her own and was laughing, and so it wasn't really working. And he said, hold on, I'll do something. And he got dressed, and he was the man running through the shot holding her hand, and when it was time for her to fall, he kind of threw her down onto the ground. But still, she was, followed by hundreds and hundreds of extras, and but one of his best friends, another stuntman, is the one who scoops her up. And it was quite scary until we froze the frame, and you can see very briefly, and if you look on the DVD,